All the teams, all the time. It's Pro Football Wire's nightly recap with John Lund. Make sure you follow us on social media at PFB Wire and subscribe. Like and turn on your alerts on YouTube at Pro Football Wire. Now with the latest news around the NFL, here's Johnny.
What's happening? Thanks for joining us. We are already through week 6. Pro Football Wire, all the team, all the time. All the teams, all the time. John Lund with you. Thanks for joining us. There's the big story of the day. Fred Warner leaving on a cart. And today the Niners came into Tampa 4-1. And Tampa Bay was coming off that big win, 38-35 in Seattle. Thanks for joining us. We got a ton to get to in week number 6, but you see all the right above my head there and to my right, left, whatever that is, X, YouTube. Of course, you could be watching on YouTube tonight, Instagram, and TikTok. Any of those at PFB Wire, Pro Football Wire, all the teams, all the time. So NFL Week 6, we recap Sunday all day, all night, everything. So top 5 stories. Fred Warner's injury we'll get into. Are the 49ers done with all the injuries that they have, especially defensively? Got a lot of issues, and they just continue to get hurt like they did last year. So we'll get into that conversation. And if you don't know how important Fred Warner is to the 49ers, I will try to illustrate it to you. Baker Mayfield, I never thought I'd say this, but he's got to be not only in the conversation for MVP, and as much as I like Josh Allen, the MVP is not who the best player is. It's the player having the best season, and that is probably Baker Mayfield. We'll get into that. Should the Jets bench Justin Fields? Every team has found this out. The Bears, the Steelers, the Jets. You got to be a drop back quarterback in this league at some point. You got to win from the pocket. You can combine running, but you've got to win from the pocket at some point. It's never been proven otherwise, and he just can't do it. And they just had one of the worst 5 passing performances of all time. And Aaron Glenn, now 0-6 as head coach of the Jets, was asked about benching Justin Fields, and he should, and he was offended by it. So we'll get into that conversation. Revisiting the 2024 QB draft, because Drake May is just day after day, game after game, is getting better and better and better. He broke out last week against the Bills, but he played well again, and the Patriots are now 4-2. We'll get into that. Sunday Night Football just finished up. The Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17. What does that mean for both teams? I told you what it meant last week for Kansas City, despite the loss to Jacksonville. We'll get into that conversation. Studs tonight, Rico Dowdle, JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, a star, is coming up right before our eyes. A Rams linebacker with 17 tackles. Drake May I talked about. And then the duds, Tua, and you're going to get a lot of video tonight as well from a lot of these games. Justin Fields, as I talked about, the AFC North minus Pittsburgh, is 4-14, and we'll preview 2, which I absolutely love. And if you tune into the show on regular occasion, I love the 6 a.m. start. And I love double Monday Night Football games, because that means that and somehow you got to be able to do this. And that means that during the week, you're going to have to finish up, I don't know, whatever your honey-do list is, whatever you got to do, because basically you have 6 a.m. Sunday. You got to work on Monday, I guess. And then you got 2 Monday Night Football games, and you even got to put in like the ALCS, which Seattle beat Toronto tonight. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. The NBA is on the horizon. So you got to get your stuff done, because there's a lot to do. But in terms of the NFL, they take up your time, 6 a.m. Pacific, where I am, through double Monday night. And, it's like 48 hours, and I don't know how you're going to do it. I always just say, well, this is what I do for a living. It's what I've done for a living for 30 years. So I'm sorry, I have an excuse built in. I don't know what you're going to do about it. I'd love to hear about it. Anyway, before we get to everything, let me get this out of the way. Please subscribe to the channel at PFB Wire. We're on all your social media. So X, like I said, Instagram, TikTok, all those, at PFB Wire, and tell your friends and enemies. And then on YouTube, if you're watching there tonight, maybe you're watching on X at John Lund Radio, which is absolutely great. We do have an X channel there that we're just starting, at PFB Wire. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X tonight, at John Lund Radio, make sure that you give us a follow at PFB Wire, because it's all the NFL teams all the time. Got great insight, and we will take you through as we do every Sunday night. But during the week, we send out tons of stuff. We do shows, we do shorts, we send out news, we do all that kind of stuff on all of our social media. We do shows on the YouTube channel at PFB Wire. So thanks for joining us for a recap of week number 8. And again, make sure you're subscribed. please get those alerts on as well. And if you'd hit us what they like, that would be great because the algorithm likes the like. All right, let's start at the beginning, the big story. And I'll try to illustrate this because I covered the 49ers and did pre, half, and post for about 12 years. Fred Warner, we all know, was a 70th pick a few years ago. Actually, and I watched an amazing amount, a silly amount of college football, and I don't know that I thought that Fred Warner was going to be half of what he's become because he kind of played that star position that has become so popular both in college and pro football. He was a lighter guy, gained weight, became the best linebacker in all of the NFL. But it's not only that. It's the way he plays, but it's the tone he sets. It's the mature guy that he is. He's the emotional leader of the 49ers. He's the defensive leader of the 49ers, but he's really probably the best leader on the 49ers. Maybe George Kittle on the offensive side, Fred Warner on the defensive side, and everybody talk about the quarterback. Of course, Brock Purdy's a good leader and all those kind of things, but Fred Warner, if I had to say one guy that is the heartbeat of the 49ers that they could not lose, like at the beginning of the season, you look at your team, whoever your team is, and you'd say, just not this guy, all right? If we lose this guy, it's not great. If we lose this guy, it's not great. If we lose that guy, it's not great. But I think most fans would agree that follow the 49ers in some way, shape, or form, that Fred Warner would probably be the guy that I wouldn't want to lose. Nick Bosa is a great pass rusher and a great player, and he was Defensive Player of the Year a few years ago, but you can maybe go out and get a Trey Hendrickson to kind of be close. There is not a linebacker like Fred Warner in all of the NFL. And there's guys who are really good. Like we watched Nick Bolton with Kansas City, and Chris Collinsworth was blowing him up and saying how great he is. And he's really good, but he's not that good. And Bobby Wagner's a little bit too old. And I'm talking about off-ball linebackers in the league. Fred Warner is the prototypical guy, and it's why the 49ers drafted him out of BYU, playing that star position, and said, we're going to make you into a linebacker. And they've had the guys like Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, those type of guys who they patrolled the middle. And if you're going to catch the ball in front of them, fine, you're going to do those crossers, but you're not going to get a lot of yak yards afterwards. And that's kind of Fred Warner. He can cover everybody. He's great. He doesn't have a weakness, really. And he's the prototypical off-ball linebacker in the NFL and an amazing leader to boot and a great guy. And he's irreplaceable for the 49ers. I said right when Nick Bosa got hurt, he's irreplaceable. Well, Fred Warner even more so. So this injury to Fred Warner is a killer to the 49ers. Now, they're 4-2. They're 4-2, and, you look at them and you say, well, they haven't had Brock Purdy. They've survived. They haven't had Brandon Ayuk all season. They've survived. They don't have Nick Bosa. They've still played well. At some point, and this to me might be just the straw that breaks the camel's back on this whole thing, at some point there's just an injury that makes it so you're not the same, and that's what Fred Warner is to me. So the 49ers are 4-2. We'll get to Seattle, who won at Jacksonville. They don't win at home, but they've won 9 in a row on the road. We will get to the Rams. The Ravens are atrocious, and they have a ton of injuries. But it just shows you how great Lamar Jackson is because he covers up a lot of warts, all the warts maybe, with the Baltimore Ravens. But they went in there and won quite easily, 17-3. In fact, Cooper Rush got replaced by Tyler Huntley late in that game, and I don't know what they're waiting for. Cooper Rush stinks. And so the Rams get that win. Arizona had a great opportunity to beat the Colts, but they didn't, so Indiana Jones continues to win. But the other two teams win in the division, and that's not great for the 49ers. But here's Kyle Shanahan. I got a little clip in the corner of the play if you didn't see it, but here's Kyle Shanahan after the game announcing the injury to Fred Warner, and he's out for the season.
I think it broke too. So I'm wound up having surgery. It's big. I mean, anytime you lose one of your best players, also a huge leader. So obviously a huge blow. Feel bad for Fred right now. He was in good spirits, though. He's got a good foundation.
Fred Warner will be back. It's a broken ankle. It's a dislocated ankle. Dak Prescott had one of these in 2020, if you remember, and about a year. It was about a year. But remember, the thing that I'm concerned about Fred Warner and going back and being himself eventually is his game is somewhat built on athleticism. Now, he's incredibly smart. He can diagnose plays, but he's a hell of an athlete, and that's what allows him to do the things that he does. So can he still be that guy coming back from a dislocated and broken ankle? Will it take next year? Will it be some of the year next year? Because, last year it was, okay, there's all these injuries, but next year they're going to be healthy. Is it all of a sudden now, when are they going to get healthy again? Because George Kittle is supposed to come back. in week 6. And Tonjes has done a really nice job for the 49ers at tight end, but you just keep getting injuries, right? We saw today for the 49ers, this is just what they do in Tampa. They've got a great blitz scheme, and Mac Jones just couldn't handle it. But again, Juwan Jennings said after the game for the 49ers that he's got 2 high ankle sprains, 2 low ankle sprains. He's dealing with all these sorts of injuries, and he's playing because he'd probably like to not play. But Ricky Pearsall is already out, and a number of their receivers are out, and they don't really have anybody to catch the football. They're running Christian McCaffrey out as a slot receiver a lot of times because they just don't have guys that Mac Jones can rely on. And Mac Jones threw a couple of interceptions, great deception by the Buccaneers, who I'll get to in just a second. But the 49ers at 4-2, I think, are really in trouble because if Brock Purdy can't come back, and like I said, all this discussion of whether Mac Jones is as good as Brock Purdy, he's just not. And I hate when people say a guy's not athletic because if you're in the NFL, if you're a professional athlete in any way, shape, or form in any sport, you're athletic. You know, a bunch of fat-ass writers saying that a certain guy is not, he's not athletic as you chomp down, chips and free food in the press box and wings and all that kind of stuff, wash it down with beers or whatever. He's not athletic. There's different levels of athleticism, but the one difference that you can see right away is Brock Purdy can get out of the pocket, Brock Purdy can move, Brock Purdy can scramble, Brock Purdy can get yards, and Mac Jones doesn't do that. Mac Jones can't read defenses as quickly as what Brock Purdy does. Arm strength, I'd probably even say Mac Jones is better. Accuracy-wise, Brock is really good. Mac Jones isn't bad, but the point is that Kyle Shanahan schemed up things for Mac Jones to do what he thought he could, but they finally ran into a Buccaneers team, combine that with the injuries that they have, and they just couldn't overcome it for a certain day. So the 49ers, I think, at 4-2, well, that's good news. The rest of the division, I think Seattle's a good team. I think the Rams are a good team. We'll get into those conversations a little bit later. But the first story and the biggest story in the NFL in week 6, Fred Warner's gone for the season. The best off-ball linebacker in the NFL is out for the season. And how many of these injuries can the 49ers put up with and still be a competitive football team? And I think it's going to be really difficult because without Bosa, with that young secondary that they have, without Fred Warner, you're just asking a lot. And Robert Saleh, their defensive coordinator, at the beginning of the season was talking about youth anyway, the Mikael Williams. And, there's certain guys that are really coming on for the 49ers, these young guys. But the secondary is getting burned week after week, and they need those veteran players. And now you pull Fred Warner out there, and now a guy like D. Winters, who's a perfect complementary player, has to be that main guy in the linebacking core, and that's just going to be really difficult to do. November 4th is trade deadline day. They might be able to get an edge rusher, but now they need an edge rusher and maybe a linebacker or maybe a DB, or maybe defensively, they're really going to be in some trouble, and they've got to get healthy offensively. And to be completely honest, their offensive line is playing generally horribly. Colton McKivitz got paid. He's not very good this year. He had a couple of blow-bys today that were ridiculous. Trent Williams is starting to show his age. Dominic Pooney is not playing the way that he played last year. My feelings if you watch the show on a regular basis. I'm not a Jake Brendel guy, so they're really struggling for a 4-2 football team. The 49ers could be in some trouble. So that is story number 1, Fred Warner done for the year. Story number 2 is Baker Mayfield, just like in Seattle last week. And speaking of injuries, think about this. Ibuka got hurt. He played so well in Seattle, his hometown, last week, and the Buccaneers beat the Seahawks in Seattle 38-35, and he was a main reason why. Mike Evans is already out. Chris Godwin is already out. Bucky Irving is already out. And now Ibuka got hurt in this game, and Jalen McMillan is out, the second-year kid out of Washington. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sitting there throwing, and Baker's throwing to their 5th and 6th wide receivers. They're scheming things up. They're scoring enough points to win. They beat the 49ers today, and Baker Mayfield made some plays that were ridiculous. I'll show you his odds in just a second, but this typifies Baker Mayfield, his day, and let's discuss whether he is a top MVP candidate, which I think he is.
Out there, his old college teammate, but he's not going to have a chance. Oh, yes, he is. He fights through the sack. Looking for first down yard. Oh, my goodness, he's done it again. Oh, that is pure.
So it's, there's Jim Nantz on the call, and it's kind of, the Baker Mayfield moxie, or he won't let you lose or whatever. And it takes time in the league. We've talked about this. The resurrection of NFL quarterbacks. Sam Darnold played another great game today in Jacksonville. That was an amazing move by Seattle, at least through 5-6 weeks, to get rid of Geno Smith, get a third-round pick, and sign Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has been absolutely great. He is no joke. He was in New York. He was at the Jets. He was the third overall pick in the same draft as Baker Mayfield was number one. Baker to Cleveland, Baker to Carolina, Baker to the Rams for one game. And then he's been a revelation with the Buccaneers, and he might be the MVP. And look, Josh Allen, big fan. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are now 3-3. Mahomes is the only thing keeping them afloat. They had a really nice defensive effort tonight, so I shouldn't say that. But he's an MVP candidate. So the top three MVP candidates, at least according to the bookmakers in Las Vegas, and I think this is DraftKings where I steal this from. That's kind of small, so I hope you can see that. But it's Josh Allen at plus 155, and then Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes at plus 400. And of course, it's going to be quarterbacks, and then you'll get somebody else who's having a great year who will be the offensive player of the year. But those are really the three guys right now. Allen, because the Bills are still presumed to be, despite last week's loss to New England, the best team in the AFC. We'll continue to see that. And Josh Allen's great, but he's not carrying his team like Baker Mayfield, I don't believe. Patrick Mahomes is carrying his team too. And like I said, great defensive effort by Kansas City tonight as they get the victory over the Lions. But those are your three MVP candidates. And if we're being honest, and we're not doing it based on years and years and years, I think that Baker Mayfield's probably the MVP of the NFL. So give me your thoughts on that, because it's amazing what he's done. 1 year they go, it's Brady, and then it's 1 year, then Baker Mayfield comes in there, and he's just been absolutely great. And look, they did a great job defensively on the 49ers. They confused Mac Jones on a couple of picks. Looked like it was one defense, turned out to be another. They got a ton of pressure on him. Some of that, I think, is the San Francisco offensive line is just not very good. But if I had a vote right now, as much as respect as I have for Josh Allen, or as much as respect as I have for Patrick Mahomes, I'd give it to Baker Mayfield. I think he's playing that well. I think he's inspiring an entire football team. And if you took, this is, and everybody has kind of a different definition of what an MVP is. It's just the season he's having. So forget what Josh Allen's done in the past. Forget Patrick Mahomes, what he's done in the past. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback than Josh Allen. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. Those are the four top quarterbacks in this league when healthy. But Baker Mayfield's having the best season, and that's what the MVP is. It doesn't mean he's the number one. It just means he's having the best season, and that play kind of typified it. He riddled Seattle, who's generally had a really good defense. He went on the road, won that game, beat the 49ers. They're a 5-1 football team. And again, I'm not a huge power rankings guy or anything like that, but I always give you this, and I'll do this tomorrow. I give you my two Super Bowl teams. And last week, of course, I jinxed the Lions. And this was after the loss by Buffalo, but we do a Super Bowl pick every single week for fun at Pro Football Wire, and tomorrow's will come out, and I'm not going to give it anything, but, the NFC, you're looking at what the Buccaneers have done with the injuries. Again, this is why Baker Mayfield, to me, is the MVP. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. Ibuka's out of the game. Their top four receivers were gone today at one point. Bucky Irving, the second-year running back out of Oregon, gone today. And this guy's still making it happen. And that's difficult to do because a lot of teams, they lose their weapons, and it's like, And that's not what Baker Mayfield's done. So story number 2 with the top 5 today, Baker Mayfield. He'd be my MVP. You can completely disagree, by the way. Put your comments right underneath here. If you're hanging out on YouTube, if you're on X at John Lund Radio, make sure that you're subscribing on X at PFB Wire. That's Pro Football Wire at PFB Wire. And give me your thoughts on that as well. Who would you have as MVP at this point? I realize we're 6 weeks in, but why not, man? There's 18 weeks in the season. We are officially a third in. It always goes fast. Third story today, third biggest story. If you got up early, which I did, because what the hell, I got nothing else to do. The Jets looked pathetic again in a loss to the Broncos in a game they actually could have won. But one of the things, Justin Fields, he was terrible. 9 of 17 from 45 yards, but even worse, because of 9 sacks, and minus that off the team total of passing, the Jets had minus 10 passing yards today in the loss to the Broncos in one of the international games. That is the 4th lowest total of all time. So after the game, and I think this is a completely reasonable question, I don't know when teams are not going to give Justin Fields money. 2 years, $40 million by the Jets. I know it's not all guaranteed, but the Bears understood it. The Steelers quickly understood it. The Jets are going to understand it at some point. Wonderful runner. No quarterback in the history of the league has won a championship without being able to navigate from the pocket. Doesn't mean you shouldn't run. Doesn't mean he can't run. But he can't read a defense. He can't pass. And it's an all-time low for the organization and one of the worst passing efforts of all time. If you watch the game, the stats, he might have even been worse than the stats were. Here's Aaron Glenn asked after the game by a Jets reporter if Justin Fields is still his quarterback.
Numbers are not good from this game. Is he going to be your quarterback next week, or would you consider?
What kind of question is that?
Look, he did not have a good game. I mean, I think it's a fair question.
There's a number of guys that, sometimes this league is like this, and there are guys that have bad games. That doesn't mean you just bench them. Come on, you know better than that.
See, I don't agree, but I understand what a coach does because I've been a reporter for years and years and years. He's got to defend his quarterback. He's got Tyrod Taylor as the backup, and Tyrod Taylor's not a long-term solution for the Jets, but neither is Justin Fields. And it's amazing to me that the Jets fired Robert Saleh, who at least had a good defense. Now they have one of the worst defenses, although they held Denver in check today. And I don't know how many teams are going to try Justin Fields because of his wonderful athleticism. And they must get caught up in the ESPN highlights or the NFL game day highlights or whatever highlights they're watching and think, God, if he could just pass. Great runner, great athlete. God, if he could just pass. Well, that's the name of the game. You've got to be able to win from the pocket. And teams are just going to start saying, okay, we'll must rush the guy, whatever the case may be. He's going to have to win from the pocket. 9 of 17, 45 yards, and a net of -10 after 9 sacks. Now, some are not on Justin Fields, but a lot are. He holds the ball too long. He doesn't read a defense. He hasn't been able to do it. That's just the bottom line. A wonderful athlete is Justin Fields. He'll run for 1,000 yards. That's wonderful. It's not going to happen from a passing game standpoint, and it's very frustrating. Now, so first and foremost, it's an incredibly fair question. And if you're the Jets and you're 0-6 and you're not considering benching Justin Fields, you're insane. They are considering benching Justin Fields. They're just not going to say that to a reporter. They're not going to say that after a game because it goes right back to the player himself. And they're going to go and they're going to evaluate it. And look, not every play was going to be his fault. He's, this guy should have done this. This guy should have done this. But the track record is the track record. This is the third team that has said, you know what? We can harness this talent. We can harness this athleticism. He can be something. He's not. We can build an offense around him. You can't. When Lamar Jackson came out and the Ravens saw all this athleticism and everything, and he wasn't a great passer, and he's gotten better and better and better, and he's worked his ass off at it. They had Greg Roman in there, who was the same offensive coordinator that was in San Francisco and designed an offense for Colin Kaepernick, who just went kind of like that because his eyes went down the field when his first read was gone. The NFL saw that, and they went, oh, we got this guy figured out. The same thing with Justin Fields. After the first read, he's like, what the hell do I do? And he can't get through the reads fast enough. So everybody who loves the athleticism and the big arm and the fast and the speed and all these things, and these teams continue to draft it because they just love the athleticism, they forget about the head. And I say this again and again and again. Who are the best quarterbacks in the history of the game? Montana, Brady, Breeze, Manning. Look at the guys right now that are the best in the game. They know the game. They anticipate what the defense is going to do. It's a mental game. Yeah, you've got to have you've got to have arm strength. You got to be able to move in the pocket. You got to be able to do all these things. But it isn't about who's the fastest and who has the strongest arm, but all these scouts and teams and everything, they fall in love with it because they think, oh my God, if we could harness all this athleticism and make him into a quarterback. No, you have the quarterback. I mean, you start looking at the guys who know how to play this game, and we're going to look at the 2024 class as number 4 here. But if I'm the Jets, Tyrod Taylor gives me a better chance to win. He's not the long-term solution at quarterback, but if I'm Aaron Glenn, he's got to start thinking about this. He's 0-6. And I heard people are saying, well, they can't fire him. Well, why can't they? The Jets are a complete mess. I don't know when they're going to win. I don't know if they're going to win. He's definitely one and done if this continues up. You're not going to go 0-17 and keep your job. I know that. I don't care. Whatever you got to pay him out, you got to pay him out. They're still paying Robert Saleh. This is what NFL owners do. By the way, they're not Penn State paying James Franklin $49 million to go away. But the bottom line to the whole thing is Aaron Glenn is not secure even through 6 games. Organizations fire guys after 1 year all the time. Ask the Patriots, Gerard Mayo. And now look at the Patriots under Mike Vrabel. Good leadership, understands how to coach, was very successful in Tennessee. I don't know why teams didn't snap him up right away. Perfect, because he played for the Patriots, knows Robert Kraft. They're 4-2. They look like a professional team. They've got a good defense. They're good in the trenches. They're developing Drake May. That's what it takes. Aaron Glenn does not have a clue what he's doing, and the Jets are 0-6. He's going to be gone at the end of the year. So if you're Aaron Glenn and you're in a meeting or you're flying home, which they've already done from Europe, you're on that plane for that 12 hours, and you're looking at all the coaches around you going, look, man, we're all going to be gone. We're 0-6. If we're 0-8, 0-10, 0-12, I don't know, they win 2 games this year. Maybe that's what they're looking at, and they're 2-15. I don't care if it's 1 year. They're gone. They're fired. So you're not in the business of developing Justin Fields long term. You're at the point after being 0-6, a third of the way through the season. Remember, 18 weeks, where you start looking around going, we got to play Tyrod Taylor. I know that he's not the long-term solution for my organization, but I got to save my job. That's where he is. So, yeah, he said that. He said, no, he's my guy. He's your guy? After the 4th worst passing performance of all time, your job's on the line already at 0-6. I'm starting Tyrod Taylor. Give me your thoughts right here underneath, or hit me up at X at John Lund Radio or at PFB Wire on X. Love for you to join, or come on over to YouTube right here at PFB Wire. So make sure that you follow us for all your NFL news. All right, finally, let's get to the last couple of them. Revisiting speaking of quarterbacks, the 2024 NFL Draft. We're going to get into Drake May in just a second in the studs today, and he's going to get an honorable mention. But again, he was very solid. Now, I know he's playing New Orleans, all that kind of stuff. Everybody was all excited about him beating Buffalo last week. But let me I was just thinking about this today as I was going to do the show, and I thought, let's look at this draft again. Caleb Williams was supposed to be a no-brainer as a number 1 pick. And I'm not as down on him as a lot of people. His personality is quirky, whatever. When you're a quarterback, that matters. I don't care if you're a left tackle, a linebacker, a defensive tackle, a middle linebacker, whatever the case may be. Your personality can be whatever you want, but you got to be a leader as a quarterback. It's just a fact. And Caleb Williams is not that, but okay, maybe he's going to be that. But if you had a redraft right now, would Caleb Williams still go number 1? I think he might go number 3. Because Jaden Daniels, and I thought this, Jaden Daniels has been hurt a little bit. He's thin. I like Jaden Daniels. He's got the it. I just don't know if long-term he's going to be able to survive with his body type. He's got to gain weight. He's not having the year that he's had as a rookie, but again, to give him a break, he's been hurt a little bit. Drake May looks like the real deal, and he was solid again today, and it looks like his arrow is pointing up, is Drake May. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been a big disappointment. Got a concussion today. Joe Alt. Look at that. Look at the first round there. Joe Alt is solid. Malik Neighbors, I know he's out with a knee, but solid. Penix, we shall see. Adunze is better. McCarthy, we don't know. Bo Nix has been solid. Bowers has got some injury problems now, but he's solid. Byron Murphy is really good in Seattle. Jared Verse is ridiculously good with the Rams. You got some players right there. Brian Thomas has got the drops this year, but had a really good rookie year. So you can see some of the guys in there. Nate Wiggins is a really nice corner. Pearsall's had some injury issues, but look at Ladd McConkey right there. My God, had a great catch today to set up the game-winning field goal against Miami. But I want to concentrate. Don't get me off because I'll go on a tangent. But right here, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. How would that go right now? If we knew what we knew, I'm not sure that Drake May doesn't go 1. Jaden Daniels goes 2, and Caleb Williams goes 3. In some order, I think the debate is Daniels or May. Daniels a year ago would have been a no-brainer. He'd be number 1. But Drake May is certainly gaining on him because he's starting to play some really good football and played solid again today. 3 touchdown passes against New Orleans, but we'll talk about him a little bit more. And then Sunday Night Football, Chiefs and Lions. Let me just show you one thing, and then I'll talk about the game. Oh, did I not put that in there? Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't, so I lied to you. I was going to throw something in there in regards to that and that game, and no, I don't have it. Okay, I didn't put it in my stuff today. But suffice to say that, look, this doesn't change my opinion on what happened tonight as far as the Lions. The Lions have got to get healthy. They have no secondary, and you're playing Patrick Mahomes. That's probably not a good thing. I told you this last week in regards to the Chiefs. Their demise greatly exaggerated. People at 2-3. Now, I don't go so far as to say, and I don't know if you watched the game tonight on Sunday Night Football, but Chris Collinsworth was saying he spoke to some people that said they liked their team better than last year's team that won 15 games. They went to the Super Bowl. So I don't know that I would say that. But defensively, they showed what they are. And, last week they weren't as good against Jacksonville. Jacksonville got the turnovers. They did not get those turnovers in the loss today to Seattle. So that's a big thing. The turnovers don't always continue to go. If you're a great running team, you're a great passing team, you're a great defensive team, all these are your special teams, those things can carry. You cannot count on turnovers. They got those turnovers against Kansas City. Kansas City's defense wasn't really good. Chris Jones didn't effort on the strange play in which Trevor Lawrence scored. I think he got an earful all week long in Kansas City, and Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator, so they're going to be able to rely on their defense. All of a sudden, Pacheco's running a lot harder. He looked good, and they're going to make a trade. I'm telling you, Kansas City is probably number one on the list looking for a wide receiver. They're looking for a wide receiver. I thought they were going to get Hill back from Miami. Obviously, he's got a major injury, so that's not going to happen. But Kansas City is an aggressive football team, and if you give them another good receiver, they've got speed guys in Worthy and Hollywood Brown who got a couple of touchdown passes, but I'm talking about another solid receiver for Mahomes, and I think they're going to go out and they're going to do that because they're in a window. And if you're in the AFC right now, and we'll go over the standings in just a second, but if you're in the AFC right now and you're looking at Baltimore now, who's 1-5, would have the second overall pick in the draft if the draft was held today, which it is not. But they're 1-5. You're looking at teams that are normally up there, and they're not. The entire AFC North. Joe Burrow is down, so the Bengals are down again. I'm not a believer in the Steelers despite their record, but we'll get into all those things in just a second. But my point is that last week you and I were having this conversation when we did the post game here on Pro Football Wire for the Monday night game, Jacksonville and Kansas City, and everybody was trying to bury Kansas City at 2-3, and I'm going, they have 15, man. They have 15. And remember, last year they were 11-0 in one-score games. This year they came in 0-3. Now today wasn't a one-score game, 30-17. So they haven't been winning those close games. But Patrick Mahomes generally wins those close games. Kelsey tonight I think was like 6 for 78, so he's not exactly dead yet. Not dead yet. Pacheco, the running game, the offensive line is kind of hit and miss with them. They had their first-round pick from Ohio State. He had a family issue, so they had Jalen Moore, somebody they got from the 49ers. He was mostly good until the end. He gave up a sack. But Kansas City's demise has been greatly exaggerated. So there are your top 5 stories. Fred Warner out for the season. He's got a dislocated and broken ankle. How bad is that for the 49ers? Are they, even though they're 4-2, not a team to be reckoned with? Baker Mayfield would get my MVP vote. Bench Justin Fields. I would, and if I'm Aaron Glenn, my job is already on the line through 6 games. I'd put Tyrod Taylor in there. Revisiting the 2024 QB draft class. What order? It went Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. What order would that go in now? Give me your thoughts on that. And Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs 30 and the Lions 17. Those are the big 5 stories for Week 6 in the NFL. Now, your 3 studs. This is a guy, Rico Dowdle, was in Dallas, and they didn't have much of a running game. They didn't even offer him a contract. And the dude is having a great year, and today was revenge day. So the Panthers get a late field goal, beat Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, and Rico Dowdle was the main reason. 239 scrimmage yards versus the Cowboys, the most scrimmage yards in a game against a former team in NFL history. Of those 239, Dowdle had 183 yards on the ground. I'm sure he's taken in your fantasy football league, but the dude is going off over the last couple of weeks. But he saw the star on the side of the helmet and went, oh, yeah, you're not going to offer me a contract? So the Panthers not only get the victory, and all of a sudden, not that Carolina is going to get me any kind of ratings or any kind of new followers or anything like that. So we'll limit the Carolina talk. But they're 3-3. And all of a sudden, maybe their quarterback is not a bust. All of a sudden, Dave Canales, who I've met before and is a really good guy and a good offensive mind, was in Tampa, was in Seattle. All of a sudden, maybe he can coach a little bit. So we'll see what goes on with Carolina. But they're not a bad football team, and they have McMillan is one of the rookie wide receiver, and they're starting to get some offensive firepower there. They don't have a terrible defense. All of a sudden, they beat Dallas, and they're a 500 football team, and Rico Dowdle shoved it right in the Cowboys' face today. So he's one of the studs. 30 for 183 and 239 scrimmage yards for Dowdle in a game versus his former team, the Dallas Cowboys. JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now, I know Jamar Chase, I'm going to show you a catch he made later, and Justin Jefferson is up there, and there's a number of great wide receivers, but I think he is forcing his way, the Seattle third-year wide receiver out of Ohio State. And remember, if you remember that Rose Bowl against Utah, in which he had, I think it was 336 yards. The guy's a great route runner. He's not super fast. I mean, he's a 4.4 guy, but he's an amazing route runner. He's got incredible hands. The intricacies of playing the position he's gotten down. Everybody thought last year he was just a slot guy because that's where a lot of his stuff was coming from. The Seahawks do this. If you watch a Seahawks game, they stack their receivers a lot. So, Cooper Kupp's a slot guy, and a lot of people were asking before the season, hey, Kupp and JSN are both slot guys. So what is that going to mean? Well, they kind of line up very close to each other, and they have cross releases and all these different things. But Jackson Smith-Njigba is becoming a top 5 wide receiver in the league. As you can see right there, 8 for 162 and a touchdown. He has 696 yards total on the season, receiving yards, which tops Pua Nakua. Nakua's got 616. He was out for a while with an injury in that game against Baltimore, which we'll get into in a second. But here's the big play, 61 yards for Smith-Njigba against Jacksonville in the Seahawks 20-12 win.
As Darnold sets to throw, and floating one down the middle, and Smith-Njigba has it. Touchdown Seahawks.
And as you can see right there, it's not that he gets a ton of separation, although in a couple of these outside routes, he just absolutely turned defensive backs around. But he's great with a contested catch. He's got good, not great speed, but the intricacies of the position, the route running, the hands, he's just a master at that. And before our very eyes, he's becoming one of the best receivers in the league. And again, 8 for 162 and a touchdown in that 20-12 win over the Jags. He is stud number 2. Stud number 3, Nate. I always put a defender in here. Nate Landman, a linebacker for the Rams, had 17 tackles and 9 solos. All right. So usually it's sack guys or something like that. Aiden Hutchinson, and I've put in the 3 studs before, but a dude gets 17 tackles. Now, there's a difference between making tackles 5 and 6 and 7 yards down the field versus, making 17 tackles. But when you beat a team 17-3, so they don't score anyway, and the Ravens, and I get it. They had Cooper Rush, and then they had Tyler Huntley. It's not exactly like they had Lamar Jackson and all their offensive weapons. I get it. Baltimore's got a ton of injuries. But a dude gets 17 tackles, and you hold the team to 3 points in the NFL, you get a stud. And then finally, I get a bonus one, and we're going to talk about Drake May. 18-26, 261, and 3 touchdown passes. He's just carrying it on week to week to week. That play that he made when he was getting hung on to and threw that pass for the touchdown last week is kind of Josh Allen kind of stuff. So, as I said, those top 3 quarterbacks, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be very good. I'm concerned about his slight build, but I still think he's solid. Caleb Williams, like I said, there's some leadership issues, but boy, does he have just a boatload of talent. And the thing is, before we anoint these quarterbacks, let me just say it again. Baker Mayfield was a first overall pick. People thought he was a bust. He might be the MVP. Sam Darnold might put himself into the MVP discussion. The way that he's playing in Seattle makes it look like a brilliant decision that they let Geno Smith, who, by the way, threw his 10th interception today in the win against Tennessee. They won. I get it. But he threw another stupid interception, his 10th of the year. But they let Geno Smith go, signed a big contract with the Raiders because Pete Carroll is there and wanted him there to kind of solidify the position versus Sam Darnold, who 3rd overall pick in 2018. Baker was the 1st overall pick in 2018. They went to bad situations. Darnold went to the Jets, said he was seeing ghosts. All of a sudden, he's got underrated athleticism. He moves well in the pocket, has a great arm, is incredibly accurate, a great deep ball thrower, as you saw in that one. He just puts it pinpoint. And all of a sudden, you're looking at these rehabbed quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, they barely beat the Cardinals today, which we'll get into in a minute. They win again today. They're 5-1. And Daniel Jones, another guy in New York, tons of pressure, great athlete, was picked 6th overall out of Duke, and everything, guy who can see the field, but he's an underrated athlete, and he gets to a place. Shane Steichen's a really good offensive coordinator. So you're seeing all these rehab, even Mac Jones, You're seeing all these rehabbed quarterbacks. So I'm not going to say that, we're second year in the league with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. And if we anoint these guys, I think that Caleb Williams is going to come around, and it's going to take him some time. But these other guys in Daniels and May are passing him up right now. Doesn't mean that overall that story has been written, but we see it. All right, so those are your studs. Drake May gets a bonus one on there. And again, he was solid against New Orleans in that win for New England, and they're 4-2. Finally, your 3 duds on the night or on the day. Tua had 3 interceptions and a 58.4 rating and a loss to the Chargers. Now, look, they should have won that football game. It was in Miami. And Justin Herbert to Ladd McConkey got them in a great position to get the field goal to win the game against Miami. Now, of course, when it comes to Miami versus the Chargers, Dolphins versus the Chargers, Dolphins could have had Justin Herbert. They took Tua. Justin Herbert went to the Chargers. Now, have the Chargers won anything with Justin Herbert? No. But I think every general manager in the league would take Justin Herbert. Every person on earth would take Justin Herbert, maybe outside of Tua's mom or family. They're always going to be compared to each other. But the big story after the game for the Dolphins was, I think, another nail in the coffin for head coach Mike McDaniel. Last week I showed you him kind of with the head down, sauntering in. I think he's lost the locker room. I think guys are quitting on him. Here's Tua talking about player meetings, and now guys are late, not showing up. And to me, even though these are player meetings, knowing what I know, these things are reflective of the coach. I think guys have quit. Here's Tua after the game.
With the leadership in helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that.
To be clear, you're saying some players were late or missed?
Late, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so to me, even though those are player meetings, those are Mike McDaniel, and McDaniel was asked about it after the game, and he said, look, they respond well to me, and those things are not in my control. He basically just said, nah, it's not me. It's reflective of you. You're the head coach. So if guys are late to any kind of meeting, player meeting or not, that's on you. If they're not showing up, that's on you. In other words, they don't respect what you're doing enough to say, man, what's going on here? Yeah, let's get the players together, and you know what they're doing? They're going, look, I'm not even going, or I'm going to go late or whatever. They're just like, whatever. Don't care. Season's over, 1-5. And what starts to happen in these situations? Because remember, we're no longer early in the season, right? We're almost to the middle of October, but it's not early in the season. We're 6 weeks in. That's a third of the way through the season. So if you want to say 5 weeks in, we're still early. 6 weeks in, we're not early. We're a third of the way through the season. So what's happening in Miami is they're 1-5. They don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. The Jets are worse than them, but the Patriots all of a sudden are a decent football team, and they're not even in the same zip code as the Bills. So they're not going to the playoffs. They know it. They know that's reality. They know Mike McDaniel has lost the locker room and nobody's listening to him anymore. And that's another nail in his coffin. I can't believe that Mike McDaniel is still the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. I can't. It may be that Stephen Ross, their owner, who's got billions and billions of dollars, just doesn't want to pay Mike McDaniel. Maybe that's the case, but he's lost the team. And you can't just throw away seasons in the NFL. It doesn't work that way. Oh, well, we're 6 games in. Oh, well, we'll just wait till next year. You got to bring somebody in. You got to push some buttons. You got to see what's going on here. You got to see where the internal strife is. You got to weed out the players that aren't going to be on board with these things. Since your season has already lost 6 games in, and that sucks for Dolphins fans, but the reality is it's gone. Okay, so what do? You can either just kind of plow through this whole thing and just lose the whole season, or you can try to bring in another voice. You can try to flesh out who the players are who are causing all these issues. You can blame Tua. There's no doubt. Like I said, if you look at the numbers up there, 3 interceptions, a 58.4 rating, he's not good. But they signed him to a fat contract. And I don't know the inner workings of the details, but yeah, I guess you could eat $50 million like the Broncos did with Russell Wilson, or what the Jets did with Aaron Rodgers, or the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers, or whatever the case may be. You could do that. Or you could just say, okay, we're probably not going to be able to get rid of the quarterback. What can we do? because there's somewhat of a talent issue there, but there's enough players on that team. Now, obviously, Tyreek Hill gets hurt, but Jalen Waddle, that catch he made today was great. Achane is a really nice running back. Defensively, they've got some pieces. They got some injuries like everybody else, but they shouldn't be this bad is my point. And so what you've got to do is you've got to say, okay, even though this is a lost season, we've got to figure out what's going on here and who moves forward and who doesn't. And the quicker you do that, the better. Mike McDaniel has lost the locker room and should be fired. Bottom line. Justin Fields, 3 duds, minus 10 passing yards. We've gone over that. To me, Aaron Glenn at 0-6, his job's already on the line. Tyrod Taylor should be the starter. If I was in New York, I'd ask the question again. I'd go right to a Monday press conference with Aaron Glenn whenever he speaks again. Maybe he won't because they're flying back from Europe. Maybe they'll give him a break. But the next time Aaron Glenn speaks, I'm a reporter of the Jets. I'm sending front, middle, and I'm asking the question again. And I'm going to ask it more forcefully. Why, after a performance in which your quarterback was minus 10 net yards or 9 of 17 for 45 yards and shows no ability to be able to read a defense, got sacked 9 times, which is someone on the offensive line. My God, you've spent the last 2 first-round picks on offensive tackles. How is it that this is happening? How is it that there's no progress? There's other teams that have quit on him, 2 to be exact, and you're the 3rd. Wouldn't Tyrod Taylor give you a better chance to win? To me, he would. It's not only a legitimate question. If the Jets aren't on, like I said, if they didn't on the plane say and come to the conclusion to Tyrod Taylor gives us a better chance to win, then they're stupid and they're going to get fired anyway. Tyrod Taylor is a better quarterback than Justin Fields, period. I don't care about the highlights. I don't care about the runs. I don't care about any of those kind of things. The guy can't read a defense and can't win from the pocket. And finally, AFC North teams minus the Steelers are 4-14. We knew that the Browns were going to have a terrible season. They lose 23-9 to the Steelers today. I guess the game plan for Dylan Gabriel is check down, check down, check down, check down, check down. I mean, he doesn't look horrible, but my God, they have zero trust in him whatsoever. Judkins is a nice running back, but again, a team at 1-5, which, by the way, has some really nice defensive pieces, but they don't have a clue. And if you start looking at mock drafts, which why not? You're Cleveland, 1-5. You're the Jets, 0-6. We're doing duds. You're the Dolphins, 1-5. The only thing you got going for you is who's going to be my quarterback next year. Now, maybe Miami's stuck with Tua, but certainly the Jets need a new quarterback. And even though the Browns had about 1 million quarterbacks and Deshaun Watson's still kicking around somewhere, and they took Gabriel in the 3rd and they took Sanders in the 5th. By the way, the Shedeur Sanders story is the most overrated story I've ever seen in my life. Shedeur's number 2. Who cares? I don't care if he's active. I don't care if he's number 2. He's not going to do anything. They're going to need a quarterback. They're going to be in the top 3 to 5 picks next year, and they're going to draft a quarterback again. That's Cleveland. That's what they do. And oh, by the way, Baker Mayfield might be the MVP, and you had him. Anyway, I digress. Dylan Gabriel's not the answer. Shedeur Sanders is not the answer, and they're going to have to draft again. As far as the Bengals are concerned, we'll give you some good news if you're a Bengals fan. I'm not saying this is the catch of the year because I've seen better, but Jamar Chase, he's the best receiver in the league.
Guys one-on-one, and Nixon's in great position. How it's not a penalty, I don't know, but he comes up with the catch on the back shoulder throw. Really only has one arm available to catch.
Give Joe Flacco credit. He had 2 touchdown passes. He looked better than Jake Browning. He's been in Bengal like 5 days. There was a story out, I don't know if you saw it. Joe Flacco was driving from Cleveland to Cincinnati, and he was on the phone the whole time with Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, and they were going over the offense and the verbiage and all that kind of thing. So they wasted no time in getting Joe Flacco out there for the Bengals against the Packers. So in that division, they lose again. They still haven't won without Joe Burrow. So the Bengals season is over. The Browns season is over. The Ravens season is over. Hell, if I'm the Ravens, and I'm looking at Lamar Jackson going, look, we're 1-5. I don't know what your hamstring is doing right now, but you probably don't need to come back. Make sure that thing is fully healthy. The defense, I'll give them credit. You know, the Rams are a pretty decent offense. Puka Nacua got hurt for a second and scared everybody, but they only scored 17 points against the Ravens, so maybe they're coming around in that regard. They were the worst defense in the league. They were giving up 35.3 points per game, so I guess if you're a Ravens fan, there is a positive to everything. They only gave up 17, but as it sits right now, here's the good news. Another team looking at the draft already, a third of the way through the season. Guess what? The Ravens would have the second pick in the draft if it were held today. It is not. By the way, Rams fans can exhale now. That was Puka Nacua early in that game, and he actually came back and played. Usually when a guy's helped off like that, you don't see him come back. But he did come back. The Rams won 17-3. Puka Nacua, the only thing lost from that game is Jackson Smith and Jigba took the lead in yards, 696 to 616. But Puka Nacua did come back in that one. So the 3 duds, 2 is 3 interceptions, and then kind of calling out his teammates afterwards. The season is over in Miami. Justin Fields, like I said, -10 net. I would bench him, and Aaron Glenn's job might be in jeopardy. AFC North minus Pittsburgh, 4-14. The Steelers, 1 loss. That was to Seattle, by the way. Aaron Rodgers had 2 touchdown passes. I guess it was the Jets. Let me play a couple of more things before we preview Monday Night Football for you. A couple of things that I didn't play for you. I did find that Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions lost to the Chiefs 30-17, but why would you ever do this? It blows my mind when I see an elite pass rusher and somehow, as smart as Andy Reid is, a designed play in which a tight end blocks an elite rusher.
Go for the big hit here. He simply goes for the ball. He's been doing it all year. He had 2 of them against Cleveland. One of them got called back, but great play by Mahomes just to save the day. But that is smart pass.
So anyway, Aiden Hutchinson with Owen Gray. It's like, what are you doing? In what world would you design a play in which a tight end has to be on the same side as Aiden Hutchinson and block him? In no way would you ever do that. And by the way, Chris Collinsworth, anything Mahomes does, he loves. He gives him credit for going back and getting the football. What's a quarterback supposed to do? Just sit there? I guess Kyler Murray did that a week ago, but most quarterbacks don't do that. So, yeah, that could have been a game-changing play, and Mahomes did a nice job in getting the ball back. And then finally, I don't know if you care about the Mark Sanchez story. It is so weird and strange. So let me paint a picture for you. I'm going to show you the video of him speaking for the first time and he leaves the hospital, the former USC and Jets quarterback, who, of course, commentator for Fox. If you don't know the story, he was in town a week ago in Indianapolis to call the Raiders at Colts game. Got into an altercation with a truck driver who's a grease truck driver who gathers grease at the end of nights. He was in, apparently, Sanchez's way. They get in this fight. They're fighting back and forth. The trucker, who's 69 years old, thinks he's in a battle for his life and stabs Sanchez. Surgeons saved his life, and he went from leaving the hospital, which I'll show you in a minute, straight to the police station where he got a mugshot taken, fingerprints, and then he was allowed to leave the state. But here is Mark Sanchez thanking his surgeons and his first statement since all of this happened.
Right now I'm just focused on my recovery, and I just wanted to thank the first responders, Eskenazi Hospital. That's right, you're going to hit some. I just want to thank Dr. Mossler, the surgeon. She saved my life, so I'm grateful for that. Sorry I can't answer all your questions.
Are you feeling any better?
Thank you, guys.
I'm recovering slowly, man.
Appreciate it.
It's just, it blows my mind because I've had Mark Sanchez on my radio show numerous times if he was calling local games, and he's an incredibly nice guy. I think he is. I don't know him personally. I'm not trying to claim that, but I think he's incredibly insightful, to be completely honest with you. He's a much more natural broadcaster than Tom Brady, who's making all the money. I think he's a very good analyst. I think he's actually funny. All those kind of things. I'm throwing his quarterbacking and butt fumbles and things like that aside. He wasn't a good quarterback, but he was a good broadcaster, and I think his broadcasting career is probably over. I don't think that Fox is going to bring him back. I think there's too much controversy around it. Maybe after a while, maybe he resurfaces on a college, show or something like that. But Mark Sanchez was good. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he has a drinking problem. I don't know what the case may be, but this is one of the stranger stories. The dude almost died. It's just one of the stranger stories in recent memory that he got into that kind of weird altercation, was obviously drunk. We've seen the videos and all those kind of things, but the dude almost died. And you can see how emotional he got right there as he was leaving the hospital in Indianapolis, basically saying the doctor saved his life. So just a really, really strange story, but that was his first statement and comments since all this happened. All right, finally, double Monday Night Football, and I told you how much I love double Sunday Night Football. From 6 a.m., I think every week in the football season, 6 a.m. they should have the early game. I didn't mind it whatsoever. Actually, I know you're going to find this comical. Was at the gym this morning watching the game, loved every second of it, all the way through the night game, and then double Monday Night Football, amazing. So tomorrow night, Buffalo at Atlanta. And Atlanta's an intriguing team to me because Tampa Bay, as you know, look, Carolina's not a horrible football team, but it's Tampa's division. New Orleans is not very good. They've hung in games. I really don't mind Spencer Rattler. I think he might be something. I don't know if they'll give him enough time in New Orleans to develop. I think a team could do worse than Spencer Rattler. I think if they gave him the job and just said, hey, we'll give you, they don't do this anymore, but we'll give you a couple of years. I think Spencer Rattler could actually develop into a pretty good quarterback. But as far as the NFC South is concerned, I don't know what Atlanta is. I don't know what Michael Penix is yet. They've needed defense there forever. They gave up next year's first round pick to take. They took 2 rushers to try to get to the quarterback. They've needed a pass rush forever. They've had a decent offense, but they don't have any defense. And there's Kirk Cousins sitting there, by the way, as a backup. And I know he has a massive contract, but a team like Cincinnati, I think, should have right away tried to go after a guy like Kirk Cousins. There's certainly teams out there, the Jets, that could have used him. Minnesota, back to Minnesota. He's better than J.J. McCarthy, but whatever. He's sitting back in Atlanta. The only reason I bring his name up is because I think he could get you. I'm not saying he could get you Trey Hendrickson or something, but I think he could help get you some more defense. And so I don't think Atlanta has enough defense. I love Bijan Robinson. I love a lot of the offensive players that they have. They have a good offensive line. They can run the football. And they have a defensive-minded head coach, so you would think that Atlanta could do something. So they're kind of that team that's in between, not quite good enough, not quite bad enough. So that's an intriguing game to me. Buffalo going on the road, playing inside. Josh Allen is always fun to watch. And how is Buffalo going to bounce back from their first loss of the season at home to Drake May and the New England Patriots? I think they're going to have a sense of urgency, and I'm going to show you the standings here in a second. We're going to do something fun with standings in a minute, so don't go anywhere. But to me, that's an intriguing game. How Buffalo bounces back and what exactly is Atlanta in the pecking order of the NFC. Tampa's clearly the best team in that division. Can Atlanta be a wild card team in the NFC? And then Chicago at Washington. We all remember last year's game where Washington got that Hail Mary. And what was it? Stevenson was looking at the crowd and everything while that was going on. So that was a crazy game. But again, I'm always intrigued by Caleb Williams. It's the number 1 versus number 2 pick in the 2024 NFL draft, and Jaden Daniels against the Chicago Bears. And again, same thing with the Bears. Ben Johnson, they went out, they fixed their offensive line. A lot was expected out of the Bears, and it's kind of like, eh. And then Washington was a team that I thought was going to take a step back this year. I'm surprised Deebo Samuel's having a pretty nice year. They got a really nice rookie running back. Can Daniels stay healthy enough? Washington may need some more defense as well. So again, 2 good games from Monday Night Football. I will be plopped on the couch. And what we'll do tomorrow night is we'll do a post-game so after the second game, so after Chicago-Washington, we'll do a post-game show there. So both games, Buffalo at Atlanta, Chicago at Washington, we'll do a post-game show for that tomorrow night. So that is a Week 6 recap. Again, your top 5 stories. The Warner injury, are the 49ers done? Is Baker the MVP? He would be mine. I would bench Fields, revisit the 2024 draft. How would Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May be drafted now? Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs 30, the Lions 17. Doesn't really change my opinion about either team. I think the Chiefs were going to get out of this whole thing. I never lost faith in them. The Lions are still, I think, the class of the NFC, although the Bucs are really putting together a strong argument. 3 studs, Rico Dowdle against Dallas. Carolina wins that game, 30 for 183 on the ground, 238 total yards. JSN, right before our very eyes, Jackson Smith-Njigba is becoming a top 5 receiver, 8 for 162. He leads the league with 696. Give it up to a defensive player on studs, Nate Landman for the Rams. They give up 3 points to the Ravens, 17 tackles. Drake May, I gave you a bonus. 2 at Justin Fields in the AFC North minus Pittsburgh are your duds. Let me give you a few things before you get out of here tonight. Let's share our screen, shall we? Let's do a few things here. NFL standings, but I'm going to do it a little bit different here. All right, so let me make sure. Do I have the – yeah. See, we're a third of the way through the season. Let's start looking at playoffs. Playoffs, that's right. Colts at the top. Playoffs. Can the Colts continue to be the top team in the AFC? I have my doubts. We'll see. The Cardinals should have won that football game today at Indianapolis. So It's not that I think Daniel Jones is a fake. They've got a really solid defense. I'm just not sure about Indianapolis. The Steelers, I think that they're fraudulent. Aaron Rodgers is having a good year, though. The Bills right there at 4-1. We'll see what they do it against Atlanta. Chargers barely escaped Miami today. They'd be 3-3 with a 3-game losing streak. I don't believe in Jacksonville. That offense just isn't good enough. Liam Cohen is a good offensive mind, though. Denver's the sleeper team to me. The Jets stink offensively, but the Broncos completely shut them down. That's a really good defense. Patriots are a little bit away, although Drake May's there. Kansas City is lurking. Don't have any faith in Houston, Cincinnati, the Raiders, blah, blah, blah. And then let's look at the playoffs for the NFC. I believe in Tampa. I think Tampa is for real, 5-1. I think the Packers are for real. The Niners, I just don't see it. Losing Fred Warner, losing Nick Bosa. Brock Purdy is still banged up. Kittle could come back next week. They've just got so many injuries. And it wasn't the Bosa injury to me. As I said to begin the show, Fred Warner is the emotional leader of that team. He leads them before games. I'm not even talking about how great of a player he is. He's the best off-ball linebacker in the league. I just don't think they can survive without Fred Warner. There's going to be a major drop-off. The Eagles, I know that they've played a lot of close games. I believe in the Eagles. I think they're legit. I think Seattle is legit. I think Darnold is legit. They've got to get their defensive backs back. Devin Weatherspoon's missed the last few games. Julian Love has missed the last few games. Tariq Woolen, to me, is a real big disappointment. His first year in Seattle, 6'4", 210 pounds, running a 4.26, really looked like a player, long arms, and he's just completely regressed. I wouldn't be shocked if they traded him and tried to get another corner. Plus, they had Josh Jobe playing really good early in the season, one of their other corners. He's not playing well. So Seattle's got some issues in the secondary. A lot of them are health-related, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got a corner at the deadline. Detroit is legit. The Rams are legit. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC. And like I said, I don't know what Atlanta is. The Commanders, I'm a little nervous about, but they could be good. So, I mean, if you looked at the NFC right now, Tampa, Green Bay, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Lions, the Rams, I think are all teams that could actually win the NFC. I think the NFC is jam-packed. So give me your thoughts on your team. If I missed your team, hit me up with a question or a comment and let me know what you think about your team. If there's a team that I missed talking about, there's a quick look at that. And let me share one more time. Let's see. What was I going to? Oh, we're going to hit some weekly leaders. I just wanted to hit that. I don't care about yardage, man. There's Mac Jones at the top with 347, but you see those 2 interceptions. To me, he'd had an okay day. This is an interesting one to me. Jacoby Brissett threw for 320. Now, again, yards are overrated, but he played well today. Their passing game looked better than it has in a long time. I'm not a Kyler Murray fan. I'm not saying Brissett's better. Darnold's having a hell of a year. Again, 16-27, 2 touchdowns, a 121 rating. Herbert, again, let him down. Dowdle, like we said. Achane, man, I don't know if they would ever trade him with his speed. I wouldn't if I were Miami, but, man, he'd be a guy. Jonathan Taylor's a great running back. By the way, I didn't put George Pickens on our studs today, but, man, he had a couple of great plays. As a number one, he can stay really focused. If he's not seeing the ball and CeeDee Lamb comes back, maybe he won't be as focused, but 168 on 9 catches and a touchdown. He played well. Ladd McConkey caught a big play for the Chargers to set up that game-winning field goal. He had 100 yards. That's a great get there. And then that's where we were talking about tackles. The kid from L.A. had the 17 tackles. So they're your top guys. If you're a fantasy person or something like that, those are your top guys for the day. Is there anything else I missed? Let me make sure I didn't, that I played everything for you. Yep, I did. We got all that. And there's the story of the day. Fred Warner goes down for the 49ers. That's why I did not include them in the elite NFC teams. There you go. That is week 6, a recap from Pro Football Wire. Make sure that you're following us. You see right above my head there, X at PFB Wire. If you're watching tonight on John Lund Radio on X, awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. If you just also go PFB Wire on X, make sure you follow us there. Videos, highlights, stories, breaking news all day long, all week long. And we try to give you the biggest breaking news and all the stuff. Plus, we put up stuff like MVP ladders during the week, Super Bowl picks already. We do all sorts of stuff during the week as well. So at PFB Wire on X, also on Instagram and TikTok. and then watch the show. And we send out stuff all week long, shorts, all different kind of things. We always recap on Sundays, Mondays. We also do another couple of shows during the week as well. So make sure that you are following at PFB Wire on YouTube for live shows, for stuff during the week, for breaking news, for short videos, opinions, all those kind of things. Give us a follow on YouTube at PFB Wire and all your social medias at PFB Wire. If you got questions, comments, you disagree, that's totally fine. Put them right underneath the comments right here. I love to get back to you. You can get back to me on X at John Lund Radio or at PFB Wire. Or again, right underneath here on the comment section is a great way to hit us up at PFB Wire. That is your Week 6 recap. Remember, it's Pro Football Wire, all the teams, all the time. Have a great night.